everybody, and welcome back to my podcast, Esme's Country Life. Before we begin, I want to say a huge thank you to the sponsor of the podcast, Red Post Equestrian. So Red Post is a huge online and also in-store equestrian and country shop that sell all over the world. So if you're in the US, if you're in Europe, if you're in Australia, if you're in the UK, there's something where you're like, oh no, I've run out of this, or I need to buy some new breeches, or this, that or the other, they'll have it if it's equestrian. And also, you guys can hear it first from here that there might be a meetup at Red Post sometime coming soon. Keep your ears out for that. But anyway, thank you so much, Red Post, for sponsoring today's podcast, and let's get in. So for today's episode, I quite enjoy I love updating you on what I've been up to recently, but I thought for today's one, I would do kind of a topic that I talk about, and I thought, I can't believe I haven't done this yet, especially as the podcast is literally called Esme's Country Life. I thought I would talk about what it was kind of like growing up in the British countryside as a kid and still living there now. I mean, I've lived in the country my whole life, because another podcast episode that I'm going to be doing soon is a Q&A, because so many of you guys asked questions and things, and one of the ones, I was actually thinking about this, this was going to be the one I would answer first, because somebody said, what is it like growing up or living in the British countryside? And I was thinking to myself, I could literally talk for half an hour or so about what it's like. I also have lots of funny stories and different things, and at first I thought, oh, is that kind of a boring thing to talk about? But actually, especially if maybe you live in a different country, or you live in the city or a town, you probably grew up in a totally different way or live a very different life, and I think that's one of the things I love about watching people on the internet. There are so many different people living so many different lives, and just seeing little snippets or hearing their story and what their life's like. That's what I always think. I love going travelling and going to different places and exploring, and always while I'm there I kind of pretend or feel like I'm one of the locals, or I live there, or what it would be like to move there and things like that. But anyway, I thought I would start off describing what my village is like. We live in a very small village. Obviously I'm not going to get into too much detail on certain things, because do not want people to find out where I live, but I've literally grown up in the same village my whole life. Technically, I actually live in a different village now, even though I ran it actually once. When I first moved to my cottage, I thought, you know what, I really want to know how far exactly it is to get there, because there's also one of the bridle paths that I take the horses on all the time. If you don't know what a bridle path is, it's kind of like a footpath, so it's like a path that goes through farmers' fields, and there's gates so you can access it, and it's all legal, but it's not paved, it's not like a road, and cars can't go on it. So I think with bridle paths you can go on a bike as well. Footpath, I don't think you can go on a bike. But so anyway, so that's all kind of across farmers' fields, and I also really wanted to know which way, because I've done this ride literally almost every day of my life. Whenever I take the horses hacking, that is my go-to hacking route. It's a lovely kind of little circle. I can go roadway first, or fields way first, so I like to switch up which kind of, if I go clockwise or anti-clockwise around, and the horses up. The only problem is in the winter it gets so muddy that sometimes I do have to give it a miss. In I'd say from December to maybe end of February, March, depending on how quickly the ground dries up. They're kind of the months where I steer clear, but all the others, it's great, and it's my favourite little going around the block kind of thing to do. So anyway, my house is quite near that hacking route, the kind of other end, and I wanted to run it to see how far it was. So got my running shoes on, went for a little jog, and it's exactly 2.5 kilometres if I go on the road, and it's 2.5, I think it was a little bit more, it was about 3 kilometres if I went across the fields, but there's also another way across the fields. There are so many footpaths in my village, especially as all the road, the proper roads are really windy and things. So actually, on this particular day, I actually went for a run. One of the reasons was my boyfriend dropped me off at my house, and my car was still at my parents' / the horses. So I was like, I'm gonna have to walk. I was like, to be fair, I could have rung my dad up and be like, hi, can you come pick me up? And it's a 5-minute drive. So I was like, it's a 5-minute drive, or I'd say it's probably a 20-25 minute walk. Probably more a 20-minute walk if you do 2.5 kilometres. That sounds about right. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to run. I'm going to go the scenic route. I'm going to go through not the fields that I ride the horses, but different fields and woods and things, and saw some cows. That was nice. Almost stepped in a cow pat, which wouldn't have been great, but you know, I feel like every country person has done that at least once. It made me realise, literally, there are so many people in our village that own horses. There are so many like horse barns. There's like a big horse stud that breeds horses. There's like there's basically a lot, there's a riding school, there's a lot of horses where I live. No wonder when I was younger, the horses would ride past my parents' house and I'd point out the window being like, I want to do that, please. But there's also a lot of sheep. We have a lot of sheep where we are, a lot of cows. Actually, there's a surprising amount of alpacas or llamas. I'd say I think they are alpacas because they're like the smaller ones. I feel like llamas are kind of like, they're a little bit bigger, but no, they're the smaller fluffy ones. There are a lot of alpacas actually near where we are. Strangely enough, I feel like that's like a little bit random, but there we go. No pigs. I don't really think there are many pigs in the village. I was trying to think of other animals. Actually, there's one family that have goats. Anyway, sorry, I'll stop naming different animals. Went up for my run. My run ended up doing, you know, going through the woods and all that. Ended up being about 4 kilometres, and I did that in about 25 minutes. But to be fair, I was filming a little vlog as I went, and I got really bad stitch because I ate probably a little bit too much breakfast for my run. So I got stitched for a little bit. I went for a little walk. I also stopped to take photos and vlog and that kind of thing. So probably could have done it a little bit quicker, especially as I haven't done my running for a while. But the other time when I did my little 5k to my house and back, because it's like, yeah, as I said, I was so proud of myself. I managed to do that in like 28 minutes, which is under half an hour. And I feel like, well, my trainer Dee, who I do lots of like fitness kind of stuff with, she's like, if you can do it under 30, like 5k under 30 minutes, you're doing well. So that's kind of like how I kind of know if I'm doing all right. So anyway, back to me describing what my village is like. So yeah, the village is very small. We have a village shop. Actually, the village shop is kind of new. There was an old village shop and there's a new one. Playground is also new. Like, I feel like they kind of put it in, I was still in primary school when they put it in, but I kind of missed my main playground years before it was there. So we would always like go to a different village's playground, go and use their facilities. Primary school, we have a pub, and we have like a proper like old, like proper still how it would have been like 300 years ago pub, which is great. That's like really, that's like a nice little walk. There's also like, it's not really part of our village, it's kind of just in between villages, but there's also a really nice pub that we call like the fancy pub. So we have like the pub, and then we have like the meal pub. And there's actually a really lovely walk from one side of the village to the other, which my family and I love to do in the summer. I don't really know how far it is. It probably takes about half an hour to walk there. So we walk there, have our meal, and then sometimes we're walking home in the dark with our little head torches on or with our torches and things, but that's always really lovely. That's like one of some of my favourite family memories. I remember doing that walk as a kid. It felt like the longest walk ever, and now I'm an adult, it just feels like a normal little walk. I feel like there's a lot of things like that. Like me and my dad, we went to the beach the other day to take some photos, and it's like a 10-minute walk to get down to the beach, but obviously on the way back up it's kind of uphill because it's near where all the like cliffs and things are. And I remember that walk feeling like the longest walk ever. And when Dad was like, oh yeah, we'll go down to that beach, I was like, mate, that is such a long walk, that is so much effort. And then I just realised I was being lazy when I got there. I mean, still, it's a bit of effort having to go uphill. Like it gets your bum cheeks working, if you know what I mean. You can like feel your legs. But anyway, back to describing the village. What else do we have? I feel like in the UK, like a pub is very much kind of like the place where everybody kind of like goes and meets their friends, and not even like in a let's go and drink alcohol kind of way, because a lot of the time if I go to like a different village where my friend lives, I'm always driving. Like I never drink when I drive. I'm very responsible, so a lot of the time I'm there. Like my go-to drink when I'm not drinking is a lime and lemonade, because it's something that I normally wouldn't have at home. Like I'd have a lemonade at home, but I feel like that just adds like a little, or like a lime soda, I feel like it just adds a little something to it, and it makes me feel like I'm at the pub or I'm not at home. And I feel like it's nice in communities having somewhere that's like not someone's house, where you can all meet up, go socialise. I don't know, I want to know, because I feel like a pub is a very different vibe to like a bar or a club or anything like that. It's more of like even like it's a place where like families go as well for like lunch and dinner and that kind of thing. When a bar, it's like no children allowed. But no, I want to know in like different countries that don't have pubs. Like, where is your, like, social go-to place? Because I think I was listening to something online about this, how there are less and less places like that nowadays in society. Like, I guess, like, there's libraries, people go and, I guess you go and read in a library, but you've got to be really quiet, like, you can't really talk in a library. Or, I guess, like, clubhouses, I guess. In some places have a clubhouse. We have a village hall, that's another thing that we have. We have, like, a little morning market, at the weekend, so sometimes I've got so many like cute memories of going there with my grandma. They'd always have like little flower competitions on, or the whole village would do like competitions for like growing vegetables, so who can grow like the biggest potato and things like that. I feel like this people like from a different country listening to this are going to be like, this literally sounds like out of some sort of stereotypical like book, like who can grow the biggest squash, like that kind of thing. We have that. Every March there's always who can grow the best daffodils. And then I remember as a kid like entering some like little competitions like that. There would always be ones for kids which were like craft ones, like I don't know, who can make the best sculpture out of pine cones or things like that, which are really good fun. And there was also like the local brownies and girl guiding club. They would always use the village halls as well for different activities. I never did that actually, because I kind of did pony club, so that was kind of like my social child activity thing where you would get badges. I feel like most kids do some sort of thing where, you know, you get like badges or some sort of achievement for doing things. But I think I had swimming on the day where it was brownies, so that's why I never went. I had swimming lessons instead. I feel like as a kid you do so many different activities. I guess like you kind of, when you're a child, you kind of want to figure out what like your thing is, and I'm very lucky to say that I figured out that horse riding was kind of like my thing when growing up. But no, we also have, there's always like a summer fair as well. Oh my goodness, I've just remembered the like, it's, you know when you have one of those stories where it's funny, but also at the time it wasn't funny and it was really stressful and you're really cringing. I have one of those stories at one of the summer fairs. So our neighbour was doing, so to picture summer fairs in my village, like the village hall, there's lots of craft tables, people have things like selling earrings or soaps, or they're like, I don't know what else to call them, but like just like bits and bobs. Things where you're like, oh, that would be like a really nice thing to buy somebody as like a birthday present or like a little gift. So there would be like candles or cards or artwork and things like that. And then there'd always be a grandma that would be selling things that she'd like knitted as well. And there'd be like also be so there was that. And then there was also like the village hall is near where the church is, so in the church house garden there would also be like different tents up. There'd be like a bouncy castle for the kids. I definitely had a lot of fun on that bouncy castle back in the day. There would be like lots of different things. Anyway, our next door neighbour that we're really close with, they were doing like one of the stalls, and there are lots of like different games. So you could imagine there'd be, you know, I was going to call it Operation, but it's not Operation. If you can imagine like a squiggly line made out of metal, and then you have like a loop and you can't touch it and you have to go all the way around, and if not, like, I was going to say it gives you electric shock. It definitely doesn't give you electric shock. That would not be good. It, like, a buzzer goes off and then you don't win the prize. Or there'd always be, like, a raffle as well where you'd, like, pay, like, 50p. Probably inflation, that would probably be, like, £1 or more now. And then you put your hand in, like, a little bucket and you lift it out, and then you open it up and there's a number, and then you have to find the number that's on the prize. And there's always like a box of matchsticks, which are like chocolates that you can get, like the minty ones. I feel like that they were always there in the prizes. Sometimes there'd be, I don't know, like a bottle of wine, or like if you went for like the really good prizes, you'd get like a full-on like food hamper, or if it was something really bad, you'd get just like, there'd always be like loads of random stuff. Like it would be like a bottle of shampoo or like body wash, like Tesco's own brand or something like that. It would always be like really random stuff. Like some things would be really good. I remember one year being like so disappointed as a kid because I won like a can of baked beans. Like it would always be really random, and Anyway, my neighbour was doing one of the weird game kind of things that you could do, and it was loads of egg cups. When I'm saying there were loads, there were probably about 30, maybe 40 egg cups. It might have been 50, like 2 rows of 10. 2 rows of 5, sorry. And just all these egg cups, and it was kind of like, I think it was the lucky dip. So you'd like pay a bit of money, like 20p or something, and you would lift up an egg cup and there'd be a prize underneath, and sometimes there'd be like a colour, and then you would like get your prize from what colour was under the egg cup, that kind of thing. And anyway, I can see my dad smiling because he's helping me film this and he knows what's coming. So anyway, at these sort of summer fetes or things, there would always be like a barbecue, and I was kind of like the age where I was old enough to probably like run the stand. Like I knew how to do maths and money just about, and talk to people and function as a human, but I was still quite young. I was probably like, I want to say like 8 or 9, and Max was younger, so he's 2 years younger than me, so he was probably about 6 or 7, and my mum and my neighbour wanted to go and have a look around the like stalls and things because she'd been there running the stall all day, and we're like, yeah, sure, we can take over and look after it for you. So anyway, she went for a little mooch about, that kind of thing, and so me and my brother and my mum were there, and my brother was eating this burger and he got really full, and he was like, oh, I don't want it anymore. And I think my mum had gone to the toilet at this stage, so it's just me and my brother running the stand. And then he went and like was like, oh, I'm really bored, I want to go play with my friends, like typical boy, child, just like, yeah, I don't like shopping, I don't like this, I'm just gonna go off and play with my friends. So I was like, all right, I'll be the one then, leave me with this stool. So I was with this kind of stool, and anyway, there's this really, but also he left me with this piece of burger, and I was like, what am I going to do with this piece of burger? Like, I can't go anywhere. I can't go and put it in the bin. There wasn't even like a napkin or anything. I saw this family and they were coming over to go and do the store, and I couldn't just be standing there with this bit of burger. And also, like, I feel like most siblings probably can relate to this, especially your younger brother. I mean, I still find Max gross now, and I'm not afraid to say that. Like, Max, I'm not even going to apologise. Like, it's just genetically wired into you to think that your younger sibling or your sibling in general is disgusting, especially, you know, boy sibling as well. So I found Max's, you know, burger with probably his saliva and grubby fingers that had touched it like a bit gross. I thought, you know what, put it under the egg cup. Oh my goodness, did I regret my decisions. So this family came walking on over. Now, I knew this family, their kids didn't go to the local village school like I did, they went to like a private school somewhere, so they were like the proper fancy kind of posh family, and they came over, and their daughter was like, oh, can I have a go at the lucky dip? So she had a go, and this was when my heart started racing. I can see her. She was eyeing up the one that had the piece of burger underneath. And I was just thinking to myself, oh my goodness, what am I going to do if she picks up the piece of burger? Like, that is not, like, I thought it was bad enough getting a can of beans. She's going to be getting this bit of Max's chewed up, well, bite marks, but chewed up burger. Anyway, her hand went. She was moving closer and closer to the egg cup with the burger underneath, and luckily, thank the heavens, she picked up the one that was next to it and not the actual one. And after that, my mum came back. I was like, girl, you need to get this piece of burger away from me. It's haunting my dreams. And that's it's one of those things where I probably, yeah, I just cringe out when I think about it. I've probably had like night sweats thinking about, I feel like everyone's had like one of those kind of experiences where it's like such a close call to something going, like, it's not the end of the world, like nobody was going to die, like it's such a, not a very big problem, but it would have been so difficult to explain why there was a bit of like a tiny little bit of burger underneath an egg cup. So we have lots of weird and wacky kind of things like that. There was also always like a plant sale, and I remember getting a cactus that I still have today. So there we go. I haven't actually really explained what it's like to live in the countryside. I kind of just explained kind of village life, I guess. So our village is probably 20, I want to say 20 minutes depending on traffic, probably a little bit more if there's no traffic, probably a little bit less if you go a bit faster on the country lanes. That's up to you. But I'd say, yeah, that kind of distance. I'd say average 20 minutes. There are like two kind of like towns nearish where we live, both around the same distance apart. So because of that, where we live, at my parents' house, you can get no takeaways at all. Nil. I think maybe there's like one Indian that you can get a takeaway from, but apart from that, like, none at all. So that's one thing that I always have to explain to my friends, like, oh, let's just like order a pizza or something like that. No, you can't get that. However, now I live in my cottage and I technically live in a different village to my parents, even though I live closer to them than the other side of the village, if that makes sense. Like, I literally live one road away for some reason. Like, I'm on the outskirts of one village, they're on the outskirts of the other. But I can get two places for takeaway. The Indian, and I can get pizza from the nearest town, and I've got to say, it's a really good pizza place as well, so very excited about that. So everyone that's like, oh, now you've moved out, do you just get takeaways all the time, or now you've moved out, like, do you never cook for yourself? No, I feel like I've actually learnt to cook really quickly. Like, I've got quite a few different, like, go-to meals under my belt, and I feel like once you know how to cook a few meals, you just kind of, like, glance at the recipe, be like, bit of this, bit of that. Like, I know how to chop vegetables, I know how to cook things until they're cooked, it's just kind of seeing what ingredients you need. So I feel like I'm doing all right on that front, but yeah, a lot of cooking if you live in the countryside. Also, one of the reasons why I kind of decided like this would actually be quite an interesting podcast to talk about was I picked up a painting up near London the other day from a guy called, I'll leave his Instagram up on screen, but I can't do that, this is a podcast. So I think his handle is Art by Rajan Seth, I want to say, and he did an absolutely beautiful painting for me called Orca. It's like an abstract kind of thing, but you can kind of see it looks a little bit like an orca whale. But anyway, went up to kind of London-ish, like outskirts of London where he lived, and him and his wife were like asking me loads of questions about what it was like living in the countryside, because both of them have been like proper city people or town people their whole lives, and they were surprised when I was like, oh yeah, if I want to go to the supermarket, then, you know, I have to drive like 20 minutes, and they were like stunned by that. And also like to go shopping, I'd say like we have quite a few like there are a few towns, like I'd say like British towns are probably quite different to like American towns, because I feel like every American town has like a high school and a shopping mall and I don't know, like all the like a movie theatre. Sorry, that's like a really bad American accent from me. I don't mean to be mean. I'm just really bad at accents, as I've said before. But anyway, that's all you're getting for now. But in British high streets, especially if it's a smaller town, you have a few like charity shops. There's maybe like one or two clothes shops, like there's like a New Look or something. There's like a drugstore, and then there's like there's quite a few independent shops, and there's like a butcher's, a carpet shop, curtain shop. I'm trying to think of other things, but there's like nail bars, going to have your nails done. But I feel like there's never like proper like shopping. Like if you wanted to go shopping, like buy a new pair of shoes, buy a new pair of jeans, that kind of thing. Especially if you're like a younger person. Like I think that there's like, I don't know, I was going to say old people shoe shops, but that sounds really mean, but it's probably, you know, somewhere that has shoes that have really good care for your soles. You know, I don't know what else to say. But yeah, there are a lot of shops, are charity shops basically in my local kind of towns. So if you want to go like shopping, I'd say to the nearest like big town would probably be half an hour. But if I wanted to go like big, like I'm talking city or like big town, I'd say probably between 45 minutes and an hour. So if I want to go on a shopping trip, it's probably about an hour away, I'd say, especially if there's traffic, which normally in a city there is traffic, because UK cities are not designed to have cars going through them. They're designed to have people, and back in the day, like horse and carts going around, and you know, only the rich people had that. So yeah, very different. But yeah, I'd say probably about an hour. It depends also. Sometimes I go to a nearby town, get the train and then get the train in, just because I hate parking in cities. Actually, I hate driving in cities in general. I'm really weird when it comes to driving, because country lanes, they're alright. Motorways, they're alright as well. Like, you kind of just follow the road. You don't have to worry. Like, yeah, you have to worry sometimes about, you know, oh, I've got to pull off at this junction and stuff like that. But, you know, there's like, you know, there's no pedestrians walking around. And I feel like they're the two things people always say they hate the most. Like, oh, I hate country lanes. You can't see what's going around the corner. There are people driving too fast. Like, that's just what I'm used to because that's where I live. And I just drive slowly because I never know, there might be a horse going around the corner and that person could be me on the horse. So, and then motorways, yeah, I feel like it's quite chill to just kind of sit on the motorway, kind of go one speed, and every now and again there's a slow person you overtake and then go back in. But I feel like, there we go. I feel like it's quite simple. Towns, on the other hand, towns or cities, my absolute worst nightmare. Hate driving in them, especially if you have to park or parallel park. They're my two worst things, because where I park at the moment, you know, there's not like a proper bay. There's no lines you have to park in between. You can just go skirt and you're all good. But when you have to park, especially if they're really narrow, because, you know, UK supermarkets or UK towns, they try to, you know, pack in these car parks really well. So yeah, don't like those too much. Actually, I'm alright with multi-storey car parks. They seemed really scary when you first learn to drive, but actually, they're quite fun. Especially, I like going down like the curly-whirly when you go like around a little circle, because you just put your steering wheel in one place and you don't have to move it. You just go, your wheels are in the correct place. Well, that's with our one anyway. Our one was built correctly. But no, going in cities, there are just so many people. I feel like every time we go to a city, I just get a little bit overwhelmed, especially since the pandemic and things. I think at school I was alright because that was my everyday environment. Like when the bell rang and you had to change classrooms, it was just like a sea of people you had to go through. But nowadays, I haven't done that in years. Like the only time I ever really get that with loads of people are horse shows. But no, when I go to a city, I'm always like, oh my goodness, I always forget like how many people there are and like how many houses there are and how many buildings. When I remember going on a school trip once with a boy who'd obviously lived in a town or a city his whole life, and I remember him going like, wow, I've never seen so many trees. And I remember thinking like, do you not get out? And then that's probably what people think to me when I'm like, wow, that is a lot of like houses, or that is a lot of cars. So, but I am, you know, I was gonna say I am cultured. I've been to London like quite a few times as a kid, and gone to cities and towns and things, just not so often. I feel like I really, like, a lot of people are like, oh, do you not get really bored like living where you are? But all my friends kind of live in nearby villages, so I go and see them. So I either, you know, go to the pub or meet up at someone's house. And also, like, if I'm going shopping, I don't go on a big old shopping trip every day. I mean, some people might do, like, good for you, gal, you go live your life. But especially, like, I feel like most people probably like, oh, I need a new pair of shoes, go and pop out for that. Or, oh, I ran out of this, I'll just go and pick it up. And I feel like, especially with online shopping, it makes it a little bit easier. Like, if I do run out of something, this sounds really bad, but there are a lot of places where they deliver next day, so very lucky about that. Although I feel like now it's so bad, if you do deliver somewhere that's not next day delivery, it feels like, even if it's like only takes an extra day, or if it takes 3 days, it feels like it takes forever to come. Like, it gets to the stage where you forget that you've ordered something, you're like, oh, I forgot I ran out of this and I really needed it. Anyway, there we go. I feel like I'm also really good at not doing online shopping, especially as I feel like I've had a lot of disappointment with online shopping. Like, I've ordered something and it hasn't fit, or the quality just isn't as good as I expected it, or maybe it's not the colour that I expected it to be, or stuff like that. And I will go to the post office. Oh yeah, my village doesn't have a post office, but the one where my cottage is, that one does have a post office in the village shop, so bonus. Although it's always open at really weird times. Like, you'll go on a Wednesday lunchtime and they'll be like, no, sorry, it's closed Wednesday lunchtimes, and you'll be like, girl, I don't want to have to drive to a different village or a different town. Like, anyway, it's always like got weird opening times. Oh, has hairdressers as well, my village. Not the village with the cottage, not where my parents live. So I feel like the village from the cottage is a little bit bigger than the village that I kind of grew up as a kid. Actually, there is a hairdresser's or a barber's, but it's like a really old man that runs it, and he's kind of like almost retired now and only cuts people's hair like every 2 weeks, I think. But yeah, he doesn't do like colour or women's hair, I don't think, but anyway, that was a bit random. But yeah, I feel like I'm very good at not doing like online shopping like every now and again. Like I'm very good at going to a city like maybe once a month, doing like a full-on shop. Like when I go shopping, I go shopping hard because I just don't shop for the rest of the time. So I'm like, okay, what do I need? I write my list and make sure that I get everything. And there's obviously going to be things, I find it less bad because although like I feel bad because I'm like, oh my goodness, I've spent all this much money in like one time, but then I'm like, yeah, but that's like this month's budget. And if I see something that I'm like, I probably do get it, because if not, like I'm not going to go shopping for another month and I might need it, or because I just don't do any online shopping. So yeah, I'm very lucky to say when I do go shopping I go hard, but yeah, I just feel like it's not really something that I'm like, oh, I need to go and get that, I think the one thing I do miss is like eating food out. Like I love eating food out. But anyway, that's shopping. I'm trying to think of other reasons why you would go to a city. I guess if you went to like the cinema, or you would go to, I don't know, bowling or swimming. Actually, there's a swimming pool in my nearby towns. That's only like 20 minutes away, or like a gym. There's actually a hotel that does like gym and swimming that I sometimes go to as well. But I feel like that's also another thing that I like to do with my friends. I need to get back into it again. Me and my friend, we would go swimming on like a Tuesday evening or something, and it was really nice because we wouldn't do like intense swimming, breaststroke, that kind of thing. I always get breaststroke and front crawl mixed up. What's that one? That one is breaststroke. Okay, sorry. Okay. We would never do intense front crawl. We would always do breaststroke, so our head was kind of out of the water. So we were like exercising, but we could also chat at the same time. So we would just catch up with each other every week. We'd go for a little swim. I feel like that was a really nice thing to do in the winter. I think that's why we haven't done it so much recently, because when we've been meeting up, like go like a little walk in the evening, that's always really nice. Like get out, get in the fresh air, do some exercise, but also just have a little chat with your mate, chat with your friend. I always think that's really lovely to do. Or just like sit outside in the sunshine. I mean, when the UK does have sunshine. I'm lucky that where we live actually is probably one of the sunniest parts of the UK. I feel for you guys in Scotland, oh my goodness, I feel like that is next level rain. But anyway, yeah, I feel like food, that's the one thing I probably would miss the most while living in the countryside, is you can't like just be like, oh, let's go out to a restaurant tonight. I mean, you could, but it'd be like a little bit longer of a drive. I'd say that would probably be like a half an hour drive sort of thing, which isn't bad. Like I've got friends that live in Canada and or lived in Canada, they live in the UK now, and when they first moved, they moved into a rented house like a little bit further away from where we are, and she kind of joined our friendship group, or actually I joined their friendship group, but she lived probably about 45 minutes an hour away depending on traffic, and I would always be like, oh my goodness, do you not like just get really annoyed with your drive? Because she would like drive this direction for work as well, like every day, and she's moved jobs now, so it's all good. So she's closer, and they moved houses as well. But anyway, I was like, oh my goodness, how? And she's like, well, in Canada, like that's just a normal drive, like if you want to go to the next town or something like that. So I could not imagine that. Like in the UK, everywhere is so close to each other, like you just have to drive like an hour or two and somebody's accent changes, or you drive an hour or two and they pronounce something differently, or some, I don't know, like we have so many different, like, I was gonna say subcultures, not really, but you know what I mean, like in different counties over here in the UK. Like America has different states, we have different counties, but our counties are tiny. Like the UK, I think Texas is 4 times the size of the UK, to put everything into comparison. So yeah, the UK really is tiny weeny. And then we don't just have any like big open spaces, like especially like Australia. I feel like they have all that kind of like just desert area, like the middle doesn't really have much going on. And we just don't have that. Like there's always, I mean there are fields, but those fields are probably used by farmers or other field using activities, like, I don't know, horses, I guess. But yeah, I feel like that is most of the stuff about what it's like living in the British countryside. I mean, we're really, really fortunate to live where we live. It's so beautiful. And I've always been a country person, and as much as I've been like, oh, can't go on like a shopping trip, it would just be like a weekend activity. It wouldn't be like an after work activity. And I feel like I would much prefer having the countryside on my doorstep so I could go for like a dog walk or something after work rather than, I don't know, going into a town. Like I feel like a town kind of feels more like a one time a week or every 2 weeks kind of going and having some fun, having a meal out, meeting my friends, that kind of thing. But yeah, I guess if you live in a city you would have to drive like an hour or so to get to the countryside. And so I guess, you know, there's pros and cons. There's towns. I guess the towns are kind of like the best of both worlds if like it's only a 10-minute drive to the country and you've got things, but then you can also drive to the city. So yeah, let me know if, let me know, I guess if you're on YouTube, you can comment down below. Let me know if you're a country person, a city person, or a town person, or any others. I guess there's people that probably live like in, they're saying a country person, but they're like, yeah, I'm country hard, like I have to drive 2 hours to get to the shop, an hour to get to work. Like I can't imagine that. Imagine having to like drive like an hour to the shop, and imagine like forgetting your wallet and not having Apple Pay on your phone. Oh my goodness. You would kick yourself. You would like do like a military operation before you left. You'd be like, okay, have I got my shopping list? Have I got my keys? Have I got everything? I mean, I feel like I need to do that more in my life because the amount of times I've gone somewhere, forgotten something, but like, oh, just popping back to the cottage, forgot to get this for filming, or like this, that, or the other. I mean, I've only done that a few times. I've actually been pretty good. But I feel like, yeah, we're very lucky where we live. We have like the forest, which is nearby. We have the hills where I love to take the horses. We took Joey on the hills the other day. We have the beach. So we live in very like we're very lucky where we live. I feel like for people who played Minecraft, we have different biomes. I feel like that's also a word used in scientific, but we have different biomes that we can go to, or different areas, which all feel very different. So anyway, that is what it's like living in the British countryside. I hope you enjoyed my little embarrassing story as well. But there we go. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode. Thank you again to Red Post Equestrian for very kindly sponsoring today's podcast, or the podcast in general. And I'll see you all next time. Bye!